Hello, my name is Adelene. In today's conversation and guided practice session, I would like to share with you some ideas and maybe even understand a little bit more about the intention of restorative yoga and what's the role of props used in restorative yoga, and how do we obviously improvise it, especially we might not have the exact set of props we might have access to as in the studio. So welcome to those of you who have just joined me. Hi Baroness Katie, Ramijo, hi Naomi, Penelope. Yes, so thank you for joining me. This topic is really, especially during this time, is really a hot topic just because a lot of us are now practicing at home and maybe teaching students across the screens, and students might not have like the array of props that we have access to as in the studio, where bolsters, blocks and blankets are just abundance. So how are we managing at the moment with restorative practices, with props use? So how are you doing with in terms of your experience with props? Are you able to use some of the furnitures at home and make do with some pillow? And you can see in a moment I'll demonstrate with lots of like things that I've picked up that potentially can be used at home, like pillows, and I have a little stool and other boxes around that we could potentially improvise. Hi Mom, hi Katerina, and hello Daddy. Okay, so firstly I wanted to say, what are the practices that we want to use props, and why do we even want to use props? Can we do without props, especially when we talk about supporting the body or understanding really the role of props use? Like, the reason for us to use props, I mean, a few different reasons. It depends whether it's for an active practice, movement-based practice, or restorative practice. And we know that in restorative practice, especially those of you who practice, teach and understand this work, props is one of the key thing that we need in order to support the body in a specific shape or position for extended period of time. So firstly is to understand, before I get into restorative practice, is to understand that props is used as an education tool. Education, especially when not necessarily from another person, but to tell us where we are in terms of our relationship to the floor. Using the wall is part of the prop. Tables, chairs, floor, bricks that we are coming into contact. It's an external reference to tell the body as to where to position, or where is the line of force that can move through in a position, that standing pose or seated poses. Of course, the other key role of using props is for support. So supporting the body in a position that is intended for the energetic flow of the practice. So that could definitely be considered, and definitely one of the valid moments that we needed the use of props for education and for support. Of course, many other things too, and you can't really see my work desk at the moment. It's really a stack of blocks and my iPad and thing on my stack of blocks as my table. So props could really be used for a lot of things, and also for my mug, my drink. So what are the initial, maybe some challenges and things that you have faced in terms of using props, or probably in terms of understanding of improvisation of props? Is there anything specific before I introduce a few more things that I would like to share with you today? Of course, in a moment we'll come into demonstrating and also get a chance to lie down on our improvised props. But for now, is there any thing that is particularly coming up in your practice or teaching that pertaining to use of props, in at least in today's conversation? If there is something that you would like to share maybe, and you have observed, especially teaching across the screen and people are like at home next to their bed and sofa. So most of the students don't have a wall they can use. Okay, wall or maybe even the side of the bed. It really depends on what pose that you are intending also. So Joe, if you can give me an example of a pose that you are intending, maybe a specific position or pose that you are intending, that can be improvised, whether it's with a table, or bolsters and breaks. Yes, a lot of people might not have bolsters and breaks. Students skip the head support in Shavasana. So ask them to watch the head support video that I have spent so much time and resources putting it together to really understand the reason why. So people are a little bit more willing if they understand why is it important, or at least let them experience it. Just try just the head support without the other support for the legs and arms, just for a few minutes, and let them just soak in and experience the taste, the deliciousness of it, with just supporting the head. To lean back on the wall, to lean back on, as in, do you mean this, to lean back against the wall for with a bolster, or are you talking about legs up the wall, kind of Viparita Karani? Yeah, Viparita Karani. Yep. Okay. Higher support, just having much higher support. Yeah. Okay, let me have a think about the replacement for that. But definitely in my radar, I'll talk about Viparita Karani being an inversion, supported legs elevated position. With scoliosis and rotation, I find a wall difficult to get myself truly level. Are you referring to a postural assessment or support, or a restorative position or movement that you are intending in your practice? What else here? Students love using pillows. Yes, armchair, sofa, cushion. Yes, definitely. Use lots of those. I trust you, Baroness. Yes, you can do it. Okay, so firstly, let me talk a little bit more about, specifically I'm today introducing this topic pertaining particularly to restorative yoga. Obviously, when I refer to props, it can really also mean props for your Trikonasana. If you want to put, for example, this as an education tool where the hand is instead of reaching for the floor. So props can be educational in that sense, but also specifically for today, that one of the practices that actually require abundance of props, a lot of support, and I'll speak about why, is the practice of restorative yoga. So firstly, understand what is restorative yoga and why is it important to use props. And this is a question that I have over the years I've been asked, like, can we practice restorative yoga without props? Yes and no. Yes and no, because firstly, understand the intention of restorative yoga, which is to rest. In fact, anything that could allow one to rest. And of course, yes, we are using specific adapted poses, more classical poses from yoga, whether it's a forward fold, whether it's a child's pose, for that adaptation, to facilitate health and well-being and healing and connecting to our deeper stillness, inner stillness. But more importantly, is about facilitating the person to shift into relaxation and rest. deeply. And there are many variations and positions of restorative yoga. Some are inversions, back bends, forward fold, twist, a very neutral position in Shavasana, for example. And more importantly is understand the energetic signature and pattern of that pose that you're intending. And this is what I often share in my restorative trainings and intensives, that I don't really care whether you're using one bolster or 5 breaks or blocks. And you can see some amazing setup on my Instagram where I'll take picture of students using like 10 breaks or like 6 bolsters or something to support one shape. The thing is to really understand the energetic signature and pattern that we are intending to support, because in restorative yoga, it's not just about making the shape with the body. So for example, back bend, you want to support the person in a slight back bend extension. It's not just about making the shape, but it's also about time, which is sustaining the shape for over a period of time, to be able to hold and allow the body to respond, the physiology to respond, to shift into relaxation and rest. So my question is, yes, you might, some might argue that yes, I can maintain this shape, but how long? Can you maintain it for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes? In Shavasana, we want the knee to be kept slightly flexed to support, to release the hip flexors for over 20 minutes. So can I just like bend my knees and keep it there for 20 minutes is my question. So the props are important to offer us minimal to nil muscular effort, so that the body could recognize there's no longer any demand, physical demand for the body to stay in that position. Some students love practicing from their pajamas in bed as a soft base, especially those who have been unwell and tired. Yes, that is an option. But I'll speak a little bit about practicing in bed also. Sometimes it's difficult to assess how well students are supporting their body, as we don't quite know what props they are using, or we can't see the shape of the body too. Yes, so thank you for asking that question, Baroness. I would very much like to speak a little bit more about that. Find that the most challenging is teaching restorative to pregnant students, as the variety of poses I trust she can practice safely are limited. Yeah, okay. So firstly is, let's go to the last question, which is about pregnancy first. Firstly is to understand we want to support and facilitate rest, whatever it takes. If there is just that 2 positions, that 2 poses, it's really not about a variety of 10 key poses or something that they have to keep rotating, or probably even 30 poses that someone has to keep rotating. If that one pose, if that 2 poses allow the person to actually rest deeply, maybe for the whole 9 months, most of the time, like 80% of the time, should be gravitating and choosing those 2 poses versus the other poses that might look fancy or interesting and new to explore, but really the person just wanted rest. We are really facilitating the shift and modulating balance within the nervous system. So if it's sideline Shavasana for the whole 9 months, yes, yeah, definitely. And pertaining to practicing in bed, now when I do my restorative practice, I tend to come into this room actually, which is carpeted, which gives me a little bit more cushioning, and then I put my yoga mat on top, so I have like extra padding but still firm. In bed, depends on the bed also. If it's kind of squishy and undulated and all, it might not be able to hold and sustain a particular shape that we intend, or that energetic signature of that pose that we intend. in order for us to facilitate the opening, the lift of the liver and opening of the kidneys or certain parts of the body, if that's what we wanted out of the pose. So ideally, yes, a firm surface, but cushioned. Whereas, yes, I appreciate that there are, I've also worked with people who are bedridden and they need to stay in bed, probably getting down to the floor. It's difficult to get on and off the floor. It's difficult. Then, yes, some rest, something is better than nothing. Just stay in bed and support whatever you can support with pillows and duvet and blankets in order to allow the person to feel comforted, secure, to rest. So depends on your intention in that moment, even if you manage to squeeze out like a couple of minutes of rest for that person, right? In terms of teaching across the screen, yes, I mean, I teach my restorative classes now, still my weekly restorative classes on Zoom. And what I ask the students to do is I would demonstrate and ask them to watch. And when I demonstrate, I explain to them the shape and pattern that I want. The amplitude might vary depending on their preference, their taste, and also the props that they have, pillow, blankets and all. But I explained, for example, in this shape and position, I would like a little bit of, the experience is like opening between the left and right side of the chest, not just the upper and lower lungs, but also left and right side of the chest. I describe the intention and the effect of the pose, so that whether you are using a small pillow or another layer of towel or blanket, make that happen basically, right? So to a certain extent, yes, Berenice, we'll have to trust the student to find that level of comfort and support for themselves. Some of the things we can only offer, or what I would say is, especially if I want to come into a Baddha Konasana, where I would like to encourage a little bit more space and softness and opening in the lower belly area, then I might describe that, you know, as long as the belly button feels open and not squeezed and falling back and into the body, which is really the opposite shape that we are wanting in that pose. So I describe that instead of, the bolster has to be this size or 2 inches higher, lower, which is so subjective to that person's experience. So just encourage the person to, are you noticing that the belly button, the abdomen, it's spacious and open and not falling back and in? So that is the effect that I was intending for that pose. So coming back a little bit with restorative yoga, is the first thing is to really familiarize yourself, familiarize with the taste and practice and intention of the pose, so that we can begin to improvise. So I've talked about why we use props, intention of restorative yoga, energetic signature of each pose, and then improvisation. So before I get to improvising props, and I'm talking about we can improvise whether we are on the go, traveling, in a hotel room, visiting family, friends elsewhere, and needed an urgent restorative practice. What can we use to continue facilitating, supporting our rest or the other person or student's rest? There's a question here. Catherine was saying, what I've found challenging is students who have been used to teachers who have not had the training from Judith or from myself. So this has been when I teach someone else class. Yeah. So someone who might not have the information or knowledge, or maybe even awareness, sensitivity and awareness within their body to be able to tell if that is comfortable or if there's any stretch or sensation. So students are used to very little prop care, and they messily throw a few things down, lie down, and go straight to sleep. So there is a need to explain why making a bit more effort is beneficial, and how support can help. Yeah, a little bit of education. Those that really crave for rest will take an interest. They will take an interest to understand a little bit more, read a little bit more. They might even ask you at the end of class, and like, why is it so important with the eye pillow? And what about head support? Is it really necessary if I really can't deal with it? Like, simply take time for each class to introduce the importance of one thing. So when I teach my classes, sometimes I'll just focus on, okay, it's about the eye pillow, and why the eye pillow, and how to use the eye pillow, where to position it, why is it important to make sure that it's even across the forehead and it's not heavy on one side or twisted, or covering the nose, which is difficult to breathe. So taking time to explain one prop each week or each session, so that at least there is one thing that really went through in terms of your message. There will be one full session and class that I really bang on just how to support the hand on a break, and why and where, and what's, instead of a break, can we use something else, and all. So take time to maybe choose one thing to help students understand the deeper benefits of restorative yoga. Yeah. So like I said, if they actually even show up in your class, if they even signed up to your online restorative session, they have a need, and they are attempting to fulfill that need for maybe relaxation and rest was the key word that they were really looking for, and they were there to get that. And yes, it will be helpful that there will be like maybe 5 minutes at the beginning to say, like, this is really about relaxation and rest, and say one thing about nervous system if you are interested to share that. Or maybe another week you can share a little bit about, notice the breathing, the heart rate, and things to observe. So in my classes, generally I try to be, there's a component of education as much as the practice itself. Although some may come in just wanting to the sweet bit of lying down, but also I believe it is how I teach my restorative classes, that I really appreciate education, because that gives the person a certain level of responsibility and empowerment that they can then choose, and also they are actually offering themselves self-care rather than me doing it for them. Otherwise they would have like signed up for a massage session instead of coming to my restorative class. So in my class there's no like full service of everything being set up for the person, but rather I would encourage them with a little bit of education and information, bite-sized every week, but also that I encourage them to actually do it themselves, to set up themselves, because that gives a mental level, emotional and mental level of engagement with the practice, that you are actually committed. Before even, yes, we talk about the pillow and the blanket positioning and the alignment of it, that there is already a willingness from yourself to yourself, and that openness to receive rest given as a gift from yourself to yourself. So that really helps to, I find that students are able to value rest in a more independent way, and also for longevity, that they are not just checking in, checking out for another session, and off they go after the session, right? So there's a little bit of education. Yeah. Okay, so are we ready to look at some improvisation? it will be also helpful. I definitely noted Joe asked about Viparita Karani. If there's any specific pose that you're thinking that you really find difficulty in terms of setup, can you just type it in so that I could use those poses as example to improvise, to find support for. But of course, firstly, I'll definitely show you how to make a bolster and some of the replacement things that we could potentially use. Bolster, it's quite a common prop that we need to use in restorative. There's lots of usage to it, so it's important that we have at least one bolster at home if possible, and then slowly add into your collection. So you can have your first bolster, then second bolster of different size and shape, and then I have like a collection over the years of different texture and size and shape and rectangular, round shape. No. So let's go. Firstly, I would like to talk about eye pillow. So the eye pillow to me has there's two functions to it. One, yes, to block out the light. The second reason is actually to have some weight on the bones, on the forehead and around the eyes. Not directly on the eyelid, which actually blurs the eye because it distorts the cornea with prolonged pressure pressing on the eyelids. But it's important to just block out the light. Even like right now, wherever you are sitting or standing or on the go, if you close your eyes, go ahead and close your eyes and put your hand now covering the eyelids, so covering from across the both eyelids, and then keep your eyelid closed though, and remove your hand, just noticing what you see, and then cover your hand again across both eyes and notice the difference. And then release your hands again and notice the difference. Did you notice that there is still a beam of light where you can see color at the back of your eyelids when your hands are off, although your eyes are closed, but there is still light at the back of the eyelids, which is very stimulating for the nervous system. So it's really helpful to have something to cover the eyes, which if obviously we have an eye pillow, then you can literally just put it across your eyes with a little bit of weight, most of the weight on the forehead, because pressure and compression on the bones just feels really nice and soothing and quieting for the brain. So that little bit of compression is helpful. But not the end of the world if you haven't got some weight on your forehead, but at least you could use a scarf. So you could use a scarf to lie down and cover your eyes, right? You could use a t-shirt, you can use a face towel, fennel to cover, right? Hand towel, face towel is a small cloth to cover, but also especially someone who really do not want anything pressing on their eyes, or maybe their eyes are sensitive, then definitely use something light, or even just at least on the forehead, so that it's gives it a little bit more of a soothing contact touch rather than a pressing on the eyes. So these are some things here. Let me see what else we have. Yeah, I have a hand towel here for different support. So that's the eye cover. So definitely find something that you can cover your eyes. Even a t-shirt, even like a jumper or t-shirt that you can just like drape over your eyes to block the light. Now, bolster. Let's go straight to the bolster, and then we'll look at other things for propping. So depends on how and what you need the bolster for. If the bolster is, say for example, a typical use of a bolster is to, so this is your yoga bolster where you want to support the back of your knees. So if you haven't got this bolster, then I'm gonna use, these are just regular square pillows that I have. Then I'll put it under the back of my knees, like so, right? So not bad at all. It allows my knees to stay flexed. So understanding the energetic alignment and pattern of the pose I was saying is to keep my knees flexed so that my hips could release. So the hip flexors and psoas muscles could rest and lengthen and release, therefore not pull on the abdominal area or the lower back. So you're gonna have to improvise with what pillow you have. If it's a soft and thin pillow, if you have quite a even for this pillow, if I turn it this way, it would have been quite flat. Yeah, there's not much bend in the knee. That's just like 2 inches off the floor, right? Compared to, you can see between the 2 legs. So you can improvise with this. So for example, in this instance, I'll tell the student, like, I really want the knees to be quite bent so that you actually feel softness and there's a crease in your hip flexors. So if that is the effect that I want, then find whatever you have to put your legs, support the back of your knees so that it's high enough, right? If it's, yeah, it could be these cushions, it could be like literally, this is a regular pillow from my bedroom. Yeah, better than nothing, right? It is quite soft, this one, so I would rather have something under and then prop it up a little bit higher. Now, still on bolsters, especially when we are traveling also, I often travel with a just the bolster cover. So you can see that this is essentially the same cover as this. Most of the bolster do have a zip. You can see that this is the zip that opens up. You can just remove the inside cushion so that you can wash it, laundry and all. But this is basically the same as this. It's a round bolster cover. So what I do is then I only put this in my suitcase, which is really another of my like legging and t-shirt size and small enough. But when I get to the hotel or when I get to my parents' home and all, then I will start to stuff enough either pillow or clothing or something inside, so then I can have the bolster for the rest of the time that I'm staying with my parents or visiting someone. So yeah, just a bolster cover that you can bring with you. You don't need much investment and things if you're traveling. Yeah, but of course, if you're saying that no, I do not have a bolster at home, what am I gonna do? Okay, you can make a bolster with your yoga mat. So this is just a regular yoga mat. And I'm gonna use lots of like bath towel and things you have. I'm gonna grab a bigger bath towel. Yeah. Then from here, just to make it into a bolster. One is probably quite skinny, not quite enough. So then I'll just have to add another. Yeah, this one. And of course, if you have quite fluffy and thick blanket instead of a bath towel, it might kind of end up more squishy and nice and big enough to wrap this double up. Yeah, so back of the knee support, yes, not bad at all, right? So you can see how it's also quite firm on the inside, so it doesn't squish down just like the bed pillow. And of course, if you say, oh, okay, I actually use it for leaning back against a reclining position, supported reclining position, then you can use this to make a slanted bolster, and then you sit in front to lie back. Huh? So that could be your make a bolster option. What else with the bolster? Yes, I have my friend here that I use often as a bolster also. That's just my little dog, my Monty, my dog. So I'll just put him into position, put my legs. Oh, this is really nice. This is really nice. So you can see how it actually holds the shape and just keep my legs there. Just lie back and into my supported reclining pose, my Shavasana leg support as well. This is also really nice if I sometimes lie in Shavasana and I have this just hugging. Right? So it's very comforting to have my little friend here. So another option, especially for reclining positions, to lean back, or even child's pose and other positions, I do use my husband's tennis bag. And so this is his tennis bag actually. And to make a reclining position, maybe a stool against the wall. Okay. And then if I need a little blanket, towel or pillow for my head, bolster under my knees. Oops. Lie back. And then of course support your arms with extra pillow. Okay, so one thing that I did notice when I just about lie back is that, well, a typical tennis bag, some of you, especially if you play tennis, the tennis racket is actually on the side, the middle actually sinks into, so it actually makes this shape in my body. So I'll need to fill up then the inside, the middle part inside of it with, again, another pillow cushion or something, so that it actually allows me to have, so I'm looking for that shape that I want to sustain and maintain when I come into practicing a restorative pose or position. So yeah, Viparita Karani. So if you want to elevate the legs, now do the best you can based on what you have in that moment, in that situation. Even if there's no free wall space, there's like the door or the cupboard that the legs could go up and lean against. But more importantly is to understand the shape of it. Instead of the wall, for some of your students, you might want to encourage them to just do Viparita Karani 1, which is instant Maui, which is the knees are bent on a sofa, on a couch. And even if you say that I don't have a couch, I don't have a chair for it, there are things like this that you can support your legs, right? Where is it? Okay. You can use this. Basically, this is not high enough. But what you can do is to make it higher. This is my backpack. Okay, yeah. So this would be a nice one if I have to lie down and put my legs up on the chair, right? Oh, this is a good height for my, but for my thighs. So you can see the alignment is really about the angle of the thighs as much, right? And the back of my knee supported. So I'm pretty much, I've got the shape. Of course, I need to elevate my pelvis if you are in Viparita Karani, which is an inversion. So understand the shape that you're trying to create, and then before we can even think about how to improvise and use different things. I use backpack, I use the cabin bag that I travel with a lot because it's so versatile. I can just put this here, and if I have a bolster, I'll just lean it against here and lie back on it, right? Why did I have this? Oh yes, I have this to support my hands. So in basic Shavasana, some of you are already familiar that we support the back of the knees. And assuming that we don't need all these. Okay. And you use a bath towel to support your head. And you want to support your hands, so to elevate your hands and wrists to be higher. So I use this little thing to support my hands. Oh, it's really nice. My elbow is a little bit bent. So understanding that the flexion is what I'm trying to get to, the flexion of the elbow, so that my shoulders could release. Of course, this can also be on the other end too. I actually posted one of these soft toy adaptation to support basic Shavasana last Easter with little chickens. So that's still, I think it's still on my Instagram. So if you want to look at, so you can see how it floats my heels with those two little soft toy. So these are some of the things that I am suggesting, using pillows and all to support the body. So for now, maybe give it a go and try the position that you are thinking that you would like to support. I'll just continue talking for the next 5 minutes while you explore and improvise, so that you can still ask if there's any questions or difficulty in setting up or making that shape of the pose. Then we can then we can discuss a little bit more about it. But of course, the other stack of blanket and towel. Okay, so let's see if there's any question from before. Do you take the animals when you travel? Yeah, okay. Well, sometimes, maybe. Okay. Hi, Maggie. So someone's asking, would love to know if I want to buy just one bolster, what kind of shape is most essential? Also, if buckwheat or cotton, better option. If it's your first ever bolster, and I would say cotton, and it depends on the usage. You can get a round one or a rectangular one. Maybe go for the round one first, round cotton bolster. Yeah, so that would be the first one that I would get. Yeah, I love soft toys for hands. Yes, I know, they're just like so convenient. I have just 2 or 3 of them lying in my living room and all. Yeah, new idea for yoga matters. Yes, I know, but some of the props are even like sold out in some of the yoga props website. Yeah, taking the bolster covers, yes, definitely. 2 cushions work well. Yeah, especially when you are supporting it the back of the knees. Yes, sweater sleeve. Okay, let me see if there's anything else. Okay. Yeah, so how are you doing with your improvisation? Is there any specific thing that, I mean, feel free to hang out there and lie there. You don't need to come back to the screen, as long as you can still hear me, and unless you want to type. But this is the time that you can just go ahead and experiment, lie there and see if that is the shape that is intended. If you're in a supported back bend, if you're in fact, for this event I was actually traveling in Japan, and the props that's limited in a tatami room and all, it's just some flat cushion, which are, I think they are kind of sitting cushion and meditation cushion. I just stacked 6 of them in like 6 of them, and then to just lie back for supported bridge pose. Neck bean back. Yes, definitely. Yes, definitely. You can use a little, those neck bean bag, the smallish one, to support your wrist and hand, which is actually really nice because it molds around the shape. Thank you, Baroness. Yes, roll duvet covers are also great for those who need more padding. Yeah. And if you're using a bolster cover and bring it with you, or even if at the moment, like, okay, I'm desperate right now, I can't order a bolster cover and things, find an old but a little bit too small tight t-shirt that you don't want anymore, or that it's no longer like your favorite in your closet, or even a pillowcase or something that you can really fill up the pillowcase or fill up your t-shirt with cushion and towels, old towels and blanket. But I do recommend though to stuff it neatly so that there's no lumps and bumps when you lie over it, especially if you want a more smooth contact against your back when you lie. Yeah. How are you doing with your improvisation? So the other thing I wanted to maybe right now I would like to offer you the option to explore Baddha Konasana. So Baddha Konasana being the supported bound angle pose, just briefly. So using non-yoga props as much as possible, meaning regular household towels, blankets and pillows. So I'm gonna firstly need a slanted something. This is a bit soft, so I'm gonna have to need, but I do, because these are smaller, so it doesn't hold the shapes over there. Yeah. So it actually stays firm in that slanted angle. So let me just angle this a little bit so you could see more clearly. Yeah. Okay. And of course, then I have my yoga mat. I can put this under my knees. For this, Baddha Konasana, I have just another regular pillow on either side to support my hands. Just making sure I'm sitting right back. Oh. So if I look at this shape that I'm in, you can see how it's really open and supporting my the midsection along my spine. You can see how the liver and ribs are widened and lifted because I have a firmer support behind me to give me this shape. If you feel that you need a little bit more under the head, then just have extra padding, but because I appreciate that this pillow is quite soft, that is kind of falling back. So you can potentially put another towel or something behind to make it a little higher. Yeah. So there you go. So I hope you enjoy. It was really fun for me to explore with all these regular household things that we can find lying around at home, and also for traveling. You really don't need to there's basically no excuse, so so you can really get around to do your practice, do your rest practice as you go about wherever you are going, and spending time with friends, family, in other people's home and hotel and all. So any question from today's roll duvet? Okay, improvise for sandbag. Okay, sandbag. That's a tricky one because I probably wouldn't carry that around for travel. But if I'm at home, if we are thinking about like, okay, I'm at home, the closest I could think of is probably a bag of lentils or rice, or something that you can just bag it into. and there's some substantial weight of it, it can be actually quite comforting and weighty and heavy if you have some heavy towel. So a stack of heavy towel could actually do a very good job in terms of if you want to just put it across your lower back in child's pose or prone position. So depends on how you're using the sandbag. Try blanket wrapped around the mat. Good. Yeah. Hi Jennifer, good to see you from Singapore. Okay. Hi Sarah, Bunny, Jessica. Hi. Yeah, and I was saying she uses a 2 kg bag of rice in Norman's class. Yes, Norman. I mean, he is an amazing, just amazing use of props. He's just like full of ideas, especially with sandbags. Like in his class, almost every class you get to use this amazing sandbag, bean bag, under the neck, under the hands, collarbones, on stomach or under shoulder. Like for example, on stomach, you can really use a stack of heavy blankets. Yeah, that's also very comforting to have that weight. Under shoulder for uneven structure. Uneven structure, if you want to put something behind for propping and supporting, could be a face towel, hand towel also. So that's more adaptation than prop improvisation. I mean, of course, that's also for education purpose that we are using props. But just know that it is possible that we could explore as long as you understand the shape that you're trying to reproduce, create, and improvise, right? So I think that's all for me from today. Let's see if there's any other question. Lentils in the package, yeah. Okay. How are you doing with your practice at home now, with your restorative practice at home? What I can probably offer you next is it's come along to some of my online restorative classes, especially the Zoom ones, and you can potentially see, because you can actually see others also in their home practice and things, but you can see how people would improvise, and also how I offer guidance and instructions, and how do I explain the pose in a way that that person would be able to understand in what way they could support themselves using whatever they have at home. So it's yeah, so it's about explaining the functionality and the intention of the pose. Okay. Hi Karen, Lorraine. Okay, so that's all I have. Those of you who you might already know, some of you, that I'm actually offering the cellular restoration course starting this Friday. That is an amazing restorative at a cellular level experience that I really am heartfelt wanting to share that with with as many. It really takes restorative yoga practice to the next level of restoration. It's we look at beyond just releasing of tension in the upper back, lower back, but more so really looking into at a cellular level how it rejuvenates, how they actually are the carrier of prana and the underlying vibration for restoration. So if you're really interested and invested in restorative yoga practice, I think this could really be a game changer for some who could really understand the texture of the pose more than just the muscles and organs arrangement in a position. Taking it into a more meditative and breathing focused practice. So have a read. It's on my website already. It's Cellular Restoration this Friday. It's a three-part, over 3 weeks. Yeah. Okay. And anything else before we conclude for today? Thank you everyone for joining. There is information on scoliosis. Yes, some of you are asking. Yes, so there. I know 2 weeks ago I offered a talk on scoliosis and back pain. That I'm actually offering also a free info session next Monday and the following Saturday, which is a free open session for Q&A and practice. So those of you who are interested, you can find that on my website also. Thank you, Isabella. Thank you, YK. Laura. Yeah. Love, love, love. Thank you everyone for joining me. Thank you, Catherine. Okay. Yeah. It's an amazing hour to be here with you to share the interesting thing, hopefully interesting to you too, because it was really exciting for me to improvise with different things. It really brings out my creative juice. So thank you. Namaste, everyone. Stay well, keep practicing, resting, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Lots of love. Yes. Thank you. Bye, everyone.